Hey y'all, Emily from fairairmusic.com, and today let's talk about how to find the right audio interface for you. Now, when it comes to your home studio setup, this is the single most important purchase you will make, and that's because everything else that you add has to run through your audio interface. Think of your audio interface as the central nervous system of your entire studio. It's the brains of this operation. So I want to go over a couple of things to keep in mind to help you decide on which interface is best for you and your current studio setup. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind: what type of connection does your computer have? So I've got Sweetwater pulled up right here. Now, you do not have to use this site. In no way am I receiving any sort of money or any sort of promotion by using this site. I just feel like it's one of the top ones that everybody kind of knows about. So the first thing that you want to do is just go up here to shop by category. And the first one in this list is studio and recording. And then the first one in that tab is audio interfaces. So let's go ahead, click on that and look at some options. Now, like I said, one of the first things that you need to think about when considering which audio interface is right for you is, what is your computer's connection? Is it Thunderbolt? Is it Ethernet? Is it Firewire? Now, those two are probably kind of fading out as far as if you've got a computer within the last 10 years. Also, USB. So let's just start very simple with USB. That's pretty standard with every PC that I know of. And you've got some really good options here. Now, whether you are on just your regular USB connections or if you've got USB-C, it's also something to think about when purchasing these things. Are you going to be getting a new computer? If so, more than likely, it's going to be going up to USB-C. And a lot of these, USB 2 are getting faded out, but you do have options in getting adapters for that. So one of the first things here, it's very affordable, are a couple of these Focusrite Scarletts. We've got the Solo 3rd generation, and then we've got the 2i2 3rd generation, both USB interface connectivity. Now, you'll notice there is a difference in the price. So if you're just going to be recording one thing at a time, then you might want to go with the Solo. If you're going to be recording, say, an instrument like a guitar while you're singing, two things at once, might consider the Scarlett 2i2. Now, for me personally, I am a huge fan of Universal Audio. Now, these are a little bit pricier, but not much. And these aren't even the first model on that line. The new Volt line is incredible. If you wanted to go up into this 4 in, 4 out, this has, we'll just go over this one. This has a compressor built into it, a 76, which is emulated off of the FET compressor, the 1176. You might have heard of it. It's pretty well known. And also this vintage mic pre. Now that is going to be modeled after the 610 channel mic pre that is also like the plugin that they have. And then your gain knobs. You've also got some monitor switches here that you've got 4 different outs. So you can have 2 sets of monitors, or you can put in a headphone extension in there. Anything that you want. Also a mono switch to check some of those things for phase issues in mono. It's pretty neat. That is all in one. You're not having to buy external gear, external hardware like a compressor or an extra mic pre. You've got it all right here. Now, the price point at $369 for 2 preamps, not bad. This is all you need. Now, if that's something that's just a little bit pricier for you, there are other options here. This one right here, the Volt 1, you could definitely start out with that. And it's even cheaper than the Scarlett 2i2. If you only want one input here, you still have the vintage mic pre. You can switch between mic and instrument. You've got your 48 phantom power here for your condenser mics and a headphone out. You can make an entire record, an entire album off of just this right here. And at $139, that is incredible. These options with Universal Audio now are 100 times better than what I was first starting out with 10 years ago. The technology has really advanced, and this is a super exciting time for you to be able to own a lot of this simple gear, but also sought after gear. You don't even have to go with an external preamp because you've got one built in. This is emulated off of, here, I'll show you. And here's a look at the entire line that you can get. There's 5 different ones. So you've got anything that'll suit any need. This also has a MIDI in and out for synths and controllers. Selectable vintage preamp mode employed solid state electronics for tube-like dynamics and saturation and clipping. That's incredible. With the 610 style analog sound. So here is your vintage preamp mode emulated after the 610. It's a great preamp. It's one that comes with the big Universal Audio interfaces like the Apollos. That's like the first one that you start out with when you own one of those. And it comes included in this box. It's not a plug-in. It's a literal analog switch on your device. Now, I know that I'm really hyping this up, but it's something that I wish that I had when I was first starting out 10 years ago. And it's extremely portable. So you've got some great options. If Universal Audio is just something that you just don't like, then I would definitely recommend the Focusrite Scarlett line. There's something that you can find in your price range in there. It's going to be, very simple USB connections. And if you want to expand on that, then all of these have expandability with adding extra things like the 18i20 here, where you've got 8 mic or line inputs so that you can record a whole set of drums. Another one that I would recommend, if this is something in your price point, is the SSL2. This is another USB interface. The point that I'm making here is that all of these options are fantastic. And don't think that you have to just go with something even more less expensive or even something that's more expensive. These are some great products that you can afford if this is something that you want to get into. And nobody said that these things were free. And in fact, I don't push any free product. If it happens to be free, great, take advantage. But that should not be the main goal here. The main goal is for you to learn these things and to have some decent equipment so that you can produce great sounding records. And I mean, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you, only spend $50 to $100 and you can have wonderful sounding records. I mean, it's great if you can do that, but also, wouldn't you just rather have some solid equipment that won't break down on you, you won't get issues with, and if you do, then you've got Sweetwater support to back you up. So anyways, another great option here. Those are kind of my main 3 that I think that you'll find something that you can really use, really get some great results out of, and that's the Focusrite Scarlett, the Universal Audio Volt line, and the SSL2 here. All USB connections. Now, if Thunderbolt is computer connections, let's take a look at those. That's what mine is. I use a Mac Mini that I run an Apollo X6 through. So the Apollos are great. Yes, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, so this might be something to think about in the future if you're just starting out. But they have great things to start out with, like the Apollo Twin. And if that's a little bit pricier, then they've also got the Apollo Solo. Works great. This will get you a great introduction into the UAD line of plugins as well. These all right here come with the hardware, so they're setting you up And if you take the Apollo Twin or above route, you get Luna. If you're working with a Mac, you get a free DAW that is the main DAW that I use on all of my recording, mixing, and mastering projects. And that software is just going to keep advancing. Unlike Pro Tools, there is no upgrade fee. You don't have to keep paying for your customer service and any sort of support line. So that all of that is something to consider. And each of these lines have different price points. So that's something to take a look at. Anything else in the Thunderbolt, I haven't had any experience with, so I cannot suggest or recommend any of those. But the number one product that I do recommend is Universal Audio. And if that is something that you just don't like, that's perfectly fine. I believe that you'll find something beneficial in the Focusrite Scarlett area. The main thing to keep in mind when picking out your first audio interface is to just know what your computer connections are. And that's going to help you in deciding which one of these audio interfaces is best for you. The next thing that you'll want to consider is how many inputs or mic pre's do I need? Are you going to be recording yourself? Are you going to be recording an instrument and a vocal? Are you going to be recording a band, like an entire drum kit? That's another thing to keep in mind. And when you're keeping those things in mind, then you can start to build a budget around those. There's nothing wrong with saving some money or having a yard sale. Just, these things, they're not terribly expensive, especially to start out. There's just some things that you might have to budget out a little bit. But there's some great options here. I think there's a pretty wide price point that you can find something that's going to work for your needs. And to make things a little bit easier on you, I've put together a home studio gear guide that lists all the recommendations to all of these products that you'll need to complete your home studio setup. These are all products that I either know or have used myself, or that they're from companies that I trust. Thanks so much for following this series. In the next video, we're going to be talking about microphone recommendations. So make sure you're subscribed so you won't miss the next video in this Building a Home Studio series. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. We'll talk soon.